Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Ken Sable.
And I'm Sabine Ramsey, and welcome to The Shift.
Today we have Flavi with us, who is going to be talking about the struggles and her inability to really commit and make progress on some writing projects that she's working on.
Let's bring on Flavi.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Flavi.
Hi, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for coming. So, Flavi, would you like to share with us what it is that you struggle with?
Well, I have had this project in my mind for a long time that I want to write about my upbringing, like my life, my journey of leaving Brazil and coming to the US and starting my life completely over and just creating like a great life out of dust, what I feel like I did. Since I told myself that I wanted to do this and write it, I feel like I'm stuck. Like I put so much pressure on myself to make things so perfect, myself to get going with it. And this doesn't just happen with this project. It's like usually how it happens to me. I always put so much pressure on getting it perfect that I don't even start something that it's not perfect to begin with and get going with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
What you're saying is that's a pattern. Was there something that your parents put a lot of pressure on you? Was there something there that you see that this might come from your childhood, that there was pressure from a young age?
My background is I was raised by a single mom. My dad left I was really young. So by the time I was 8 years old, I already had to have a job to help out at home. And I felt like I grew up really fast because I didn't have another choice. And so by the time I was 17, I left Brazil and I came to the US and all by myself and did it all alone because I just felt like I had to do something to change my life. I'd never had anybody to do it for me. So that's how I grew up.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable and sharing that with us. So Ken and I will now talk how we could help you, and then we will bring you back. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow.
Okay. So Sabine, why don't you jump in? How would you first look at this as a coach from that perspective?
From what I'm hearing now already, I can see that in a way, since she already had to have a job from a very early age, and was, from how I understood it, she was being pushed forward. If you have to have a job in that age, she tried to do all her best in providing, I guess, for the family or supporting the family in a way. And that pressure seems to still sit in the inner child that she has, that pushes her, push. It's a very good recipe for eventually burning out when you have that much pressure on you. And I would also question whether there is something that would speak to the fact that I can only be lovable if I achieve something, perform, or something like that. I would see as a coach how that would resonate with her. If there's a connection between achievement and being lovable and loved and being enough.
Right. And I think that's an interesting way to look at it, because there's a lot of different ways you could look at this. Certainly looking at performance and how that might be connecting to self-worth would certainly be a way that I would also want to look at it. It struck me when you said her inner child, and I'm wondering whether she allows herself or allows that little girl in her a chance to play now. And whether, since she lost a lot of that in her own words, I'm wondering if if there's an opportunity for her to exercise that part and that voice so that she can have some balance. I would also want to explore early on in education, when she was in Brazil, what kind of expectation she was holding about her performance in school, and perhaps try to adopt what Carol Dweck talks about, which is the growth mindset. And can she reshift her expectation around perfection and around having to meet a high goal with a mindset more towards making growth and making progress?
I would also have a look at, so there is this inner child. Can you have some compassion for her and just talk to her and say, it's okay, you're lovable, even if you don't start with this project. It's all okay. You don't have to prove anything. You've come so far. You've
Right.
done so much. You deserve to have a break and play. Go play
Right.
with your kids, and it's okay. You don't have to achieve anything to be loved.
Right.
You're perfect the way you are, and show some compassion to yourself. Give that little girl, the adult Flavi, give the little Flavi the compassion that she was craving for as a child.
And this speaks to a more positive psychology perspective, you know, of what's gone right, what's going right in your world versus what's going wrong. That might be the default for her. We're biased towards the negative, you know, in terms of the evolutionary biases that we have. We look and attune to the negative much more than we do to the positive. As a therapist who specializes in trauma, I would certainly want to work with the body and perhaps explore her ability to become more able to be present in the moment to what's happening in her body, so that she might meet some of that anxiety and some of that fear somatically, meeting it in her body. That would be a way for me to also want to work with her.
That's something, as a somatic coach, I would also go with her into, where in your body do you feel this feeling when it comes up that I need to get this done. Where do you feel this push energy? And trying to find together ways to turn this around into a pull energy, rather than I need to push myself. Just allow it to be and see what practices she can come up with, body exercises that she can turn that around into eventually being pulled to do it rather than pushing herself.
And I would imagine too, as a coach, you would want her to set those goals early on the floor versus on the, you know, from the ceiling, having those goals be smaller steps. Can she commit to writing for 15 minutes?
Yeah.
What are her expectations around her commitments to write? Does she set too high of a standard, and are her goals too high?
Yeah, don't look at the entire book. Start somewhere, write the outline, or build a structure with, I don't know, with post-it notes or something. Just bite-size little pieces of the project and see how can I break it down, and then just start somewhere. And don't set yourself an incredible deadline that can't be met with COVID around, trying to take care of the children and trying to run a business at the same time and writing a book.
Right. So you're really speaking to the question of, is she struggling and stuck, which is preventing her from jumping into the writing? So is she needing to be more regulated? Is her nervous system too dysregulated? Is she in a fight, flight, collapse physiological state when she sets forth to write? So the approach to me would be, how can we help her cultivate a physiological state that is more about safety and security and connection, giving her nervous system a chance to regulate, such that starting and setting forth to write does not carry the same weight, doesn't carry the same fear, doesn't have the same anxiety, because she's already coming from a place of more regulation. And I would also want give her an opportunity in a Gestalt sense of giving voice to the stuckness. What does the stuckness want to say, so that she has an opportunity to voice that as well?
And a very good exercise that helps a lot of people is really just to meditate. Just sit in silence and just let the energy arrive at the center of your body. And because if you sit like you were referring to in the fight or flight mode, I highly doubt that there's a lot of creativity happening in your head.
No, in fact,
survival mode.
No, exactly. And that creativity and that willingness to explore and that willingness to be curious is dampened down by the need to attend to the threat. I mean, it is clearly mechanisms that are focused more on threat than on creativity, clearly. For some people, it can be case by case, because for some people with trauma, meditation and going inward and being still and silent can be overwhelming. So it would also have to be something that she has the capacity for, or that she could build a capacity, again, starting incrementally, very slow, not setting a goal for 35 minutes to meditate.
Oh God, yeah, no. I don't know many people that go from 0 to 35 minutes.
But so many people have, set these goals that are much higher and then fail at it, and then trigger the cascading of negative thoughts, and get right back stuck where they began from. So if we were to sort of summarize and wrap up, it seems that there's a component of her as a little child who may really need a voice and want to be heard and want to play. That might be an area of focus that we both really were clued into. The idea of working with her nervous system to help her create more regulation, security, safety. What are those areas of her life that contribute to resources and a sense of resiliency for her? Structuring commitments, breaking down into chunks, as you mentioned, and setting goals on the floor versus the ceiling. Giving voice to the stuckness. What am I missing?
No, I think you have everything there. And give compassion to the little inner child.
Right, and attune to what has gone well and what strides you've made, because as you mentioned, it looks like she has a lot of strides that she can rest on.
Yeah.
But really shifting from a place of criticism and judgment, from a place of, as Gabor Mate describes, compassionate curiosity.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what Flavi thinks. Let's bring her back. Come on, Flavi.
Welcome back, Flavi.
Thank you.
So how did some of the stuff land for you? Was that useful?
Very. It's to a T. I have this overly high bar for myself, like I always had. I think like after my dad abandoned us, like I felt like I need to go and conquer all to prove to him that I could make somebody out of myself, of the little girl that he left behind. And I think that from the age of 8, I have never taken a break. I don't know what it is to take a break. Like I feel like if I sit on my couch and take 5-minute break from doing something in my house, I'm not pushing myself as I'm supposed to push myself to become somebody. Yeah. If I choose to be home with my children instead of being out there creating a career for myself, I'm a failure. But yet, when I look at the girl that left with nothing, and I look at my life today, I created so much. I built so much from the dust, I just wish I could stop my crazy brain from telling me that I need to push more. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So I would just off the bat I would really encourage you, if you're willing, to not set up the expectation of stopping your brain from telling you what it's going to tell you.
Mm.
And let me ask you the question. How has that worked for you so far, wishing and wanting your brain to stop telling you what it's telling you?
Oh, well,
Okay.
I
So-
don't sleep.
Okay. So right from the beginning, instead of that goal of stopping it, what if you could shift towards a goal of meeting it, actually meeting it, and stop trying to stop it and just allow it as a beginning point?
Okay.
And shift your relationship to a sense of curiosity about it, that it's here to teach you something.
And maybe even look at it that this is the little Flavi that wants love and compassion.
And it may not even be your voice.
It's not.
Right.
Okay.
So becoming curious opens up the space for you to give yourself permission to interact with it, to shift your relationship to it, so that you can stop pushing and efforting and fighting it.
Because the more you push it away, the more it's coming. It gets the chokehold on you. That's obviously what has happened in the past, because you wanted to push it away. You wanted to stop.
Yeah.
Anything resonate for you? What might be an effective strategy from the conversation that we had?
I like the idea of setting my goals to the floor instead of the ceiling, because my whole life I've been setting it to the ceiling, and that makes you suffer a lot, you know?
Yeah.
When you don't achieve something that you're expecting to achieve, or you're pushing yourself towards achieving, you unfortunately see yourself as a failure.
Yep.
And I also like the suggestion of meditation, so that I can center myself, so that I know when it's coming, so that I can be proactive, right? Like try to redirect that energy towards somewhere else, that it's more peaceful, more productive, instead of just right here, because I can't keep on going like this. You know, I can't go nights and nights without sleep, just sitting there staring at the ceiling, thinking about God knows what.
So when you are noticing those negative thoughts and the high expectation and the critical voice and the shoulds, and maybe there's even a superhero cape, maybe somewhere too, that needs to be set down, that you don't have to be the superhero.
I know.
Yeah, and that when you're having those thoughts, that you can pivot in the moment towards something positive in your life, something that's a resource in your life, the people that are support, and pivot towards the strides you've already made, and pivot towards just being able to get a little bit better at thinking about your thinking.
Oh,
Because when we can think about our thinking and become mindful, we can get some distance to our thoughts, which ultimately really helps us to gain a greater sense of disidentification, so that we are no longer identifying to the extent that we had been, that these thoughts must be the totality of who I am.
And those experiences from the past, they formed you, but they don't define you.
yeah, that's true.
So it's just really getting clear that you're really just in a pattern. You're in a habitual loop. The more conscious, aware, mindful you can become, that's going to give you the best chance to untether from that habit, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that keep you stuck in the same way that you're looking at who you are.
And I also want to invite you to think about it that way, that this extreme push that you had that got you to where you are now was helpful at that time.
Right.
But now is a different time. The fight or flight mode kept you helping to survive, but you're not in that danger anymore. And that's, like Ken said, you've been trained that way, and just know, oh, this is just the my brain has been wired this way because I practice it so much. Practice makes perfect. You just have to be careful what you practice.
If I were starting to write and I had all the anxiety and the fear and the pressure that you had, I would stop and I would look at the little sailboat behind you.
Oh, peaceful.
That for me is already making me feel regulated.
I need to find my my happy place.
That's right. You have to start following your bliss, because that's going to give you an ability to regulate a nervous system that is out of whack. And just sleep alone can make your physiology and nervous system out of whack, the lack of sleep.
Oh yeah.
So you've got
For
to
sure.
address that. That's important. Don't neglect that.
Well, thank you for being on, Flavi. I hope this helped you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for listening, and I'm gonna work on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome. So we hope that that episode was effective or helpful for you. Hopefully learning and looking at the issue from the two perspectives of a somatic coach and a clinical psychologist gave you some insight in how you might want to work with an issue similar to that. Stay tuned for more episodes that are coming, and we hope you come back for the next episode.
If you like this conversation, please leave us a comment. And also, if you know somebody that might benefit from it, share the link with them, grab a coffee, and talk about it.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.